Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Denise Guru and Zachalou show. And today we have with us Allison Coe. And it's really funny how the universe works, because it's like, one day I'll just be thinking of something, and then I'll be just, bopping through YouTube, and the coolest information comes up. And Allison Coe was the last one that came up, and she does quantum hypnosis healing. And if anybody out there knows Dolores Canon, this is what she does. And I had one of these done a couple of years ago, and it was really interesting. So this modalities always interest me. This healing, this regression healing modality is always interest me. So that's why I was led to Allison, and thought it'd be so much fun to have her on. And yes, she has a dog. I have a dog. Zach has a dog and cat. So,
oh gosh, sorry, yes. I have a dog, and it's recycling day, and I have a daughter at home, so we'll have normal ambient noises, I guess.
Well, that's what we do on YouTube, just to keep it more real. Yeah.
There's nothing unreal about this. Yes. All real all the time.
Yeah. Well,
thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, welcome, and we're happy to have you here. And Zach, you have your mouth open like you're going to ask a question. What do you always screen sharing?
I thought we'd jump right in and share Allison's website.
Oh yes, cool.
And it's soulfocus-hypnosis.com.
That's correct. That's the one.
And so can you quickly just share with people what you offer, what's going on there?
Yes. What I do is quantum healing hypnosis, as Denise mentioned. And so it's a form of past life regression hypnosis with the added benefit of reaching your higher self once you get through the past life, and receiving answers for the questions that you struggle with most in life. So, anybody arrives with a full list of questions about their life, about their health, their wealth, their career, their purpose, what they've always struggled with, and they're just seeking clarity on certain subjects. And so basically we get them answers, and it's all recorded, and the higher self comes in and gives them basically I always call it a prescription for how to get the life that they want, how to heal themselves and get the life that they want, whether that's emotional, physical, mental healing, getting rid of blocks, and then moving forward to get what they want. That's what we get. And it's complete free will whether or not that client takes their prescription or not. Outside of the session, it's up to them to take their prescription. But it is magical what this stuff does. So that's one of the offerings. The other is I just do one-on-one guidance sessions, whether that's over the phone or Skype. Those can be done remotely. Those are just like counseling sessions. So that's basically it. I used to offer dream interpretation, free dream interpretation, because I love it so much. So I was offering it for free, and then I got too busy, so I had to cancel that. But I love dream interpretation, because that's another way for your higher self to come in and give you answers about what's going on in your life. So it's just fascinating what you can get out of the dreams, the information you can mine from your dreams.
Wow, I could talk to you for hours about dreams. I have some pretty weird dreams.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'm always kicking butt in dreams. It's so weird.
Yeah, getting that aggression out.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're not going to mess with me. It's probably all this chemtrail and, attachment stuff and so, but.
That'll do it.
Yeah. So, but now when you are doing you're doing the hypnosis with a client, and it was really interesting with Dolores, because she not only was going to their past lives, but she was also going to lives, their otherworldly lives.
Correct. That is correct, because we don't always just have what she called digging potato lives, where we're on Earth and we're struggling and we're farming and we're having babies or not having babies, or working or not working. It's not always like that. It isn't. Sometimes we're animals, sometimes we're plants, sometimes we're elements, sometimes we're just energy, sometimes we're extraterrestrials. We're not from this earth. And so it is really interesting what the higher self decides to show each person during their session. That is why I've had hundreds of sessions and none of them are alike. We can never tell where the person's going. So I'm like, you really have to make sure not to have any expectations about what you're going to see, and be okay if you look down at your feet during the past life regression and you don't have any, or they're like little bird feet, but you have a dog head. We have no idea where you're going. So it is fascinating that we've lived so many different lives.
Yeah.
On other places. Yeah. It is really insane.
Reminds me of a dream I had. I used to have a recurring dream as a child where I could breathe underwater. And it was really vivid. I was so certain I could breathe underwater. And then we went on vacation once and there was a swimming pool and I was so excited. I'd been telling everybody I could breathe underwater. And I jump in the pool and
Oh my goodness.
lung full of water, So I guess I can't.
Oh my goodness.
But
Yeah, that is
interesting. It's been interesting learning about this now. That was probably some kind of memory I was having.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly probably what it was. Like a memory of a life lived on a place where you could breathe underwater. And I've had sessions where people go to places like that. I used to not believe in certain things like, mermaids, not real, like all this stuff where I kind of have a preconceived idea of what was real and what wasn't real. And now I have nothing. I can't hold on to any ideas of what I think is real and what isn't, because everything exists. So breathing underwater on a purple bubble planet of, just all that stuff exists. It's amazing. It is amazing, really. So Denise, you said you had a session a couple years ago. I am curious how that was.
Well, I did not go into a past life. What I ended up doing was going straight up into an Arcturian starship.
Okay.
But the weirdest thing about that whole deal, as soon as I got up there, it's probably, I think they said it was the 9th dimension that ship was in. And I was projecting from that ship into this physical body. But the weirdest thing about that was the overwhelming emotion of love. It was so strong. All I could do was bawl through the whole session, just cry. So, yeah,
that's right. I kind of tell everybody you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry. Everybody cries during these sessions because the emotions are just so powerful. Whether it comes in the other life, or whether it comes in receiving the clarity and the answers to your questions, and just knowing why you've struggled with certain things, or with certain relationships, or reconnecting with loved ones that have passed. So it is very emotional, that's for sure. But also you hit on a point where we're not just, our higher self and our full energy isn't just going into one incarnation at a time. Sometimes they're split off in multiple facets. And so you can be this Arcturian on a ship at some place, sometime, and still be shooting an aspect of yourself into this body. So it is fascinating. Like I said before when we were talking, the more the more you hear, the more confusing it is. You're like, Jesus, I can't get a grasp with this little human brain about all of the stuff that's going on. It's so hard. It's so difficult. It's almost better to just not have any ideas about what's going on.
Well, and that's the thing. The one thing about growth is we constantly, belief is nothing but an opinion.
Mhm.
So, you know, our beliefs and our opinions are constantly changing. And, you know, the kind of work that you do, you're just being hit with things like you just never even thought of before.
Yeah,
How fascinating.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Dolores Canon, you mentioned her before. She, the founder of this technique. She often said that, you know, she was a prolific author, so she wrote at least 16 books, and she often said that when you read these books, it's going to bend your mind like a pretzel. Just be prepared. And being doing this for a living means that I'm actually living these books. And so every day my mind is just wow. And I run after my sessions, I run to my daughter's school. It's 2 blocks away, and I go and pick her up, and I'm still like like not even of this earth anymore, you know, and I'm trying to come down, you know, after learning this stuff, and I'm like, what in the world? And trying to also be this, you know, mom who's picking her kid up from school. Oh God, what a dance we dance in this world, I swear.
How did you get started with this?
I think from a basic fascination with it, and then I was being guided to listen to Dolores Canon on YouTube. While I was an accountant. I was an accountant for 12 years, and I was always listening to spiritual studies on my headphones, tapping away on the computer. And every day for about 3 or 4 months, YouTube kept recommending this sweet little lady, and I was like, no, no, I'm not going to listen to her. I needed something upbeat, you know, and I had no idea. I had no idea who she was. And at that same time, Zach, I started getting this knowing that there were 2 earths and that they were splitting apart. And the old earth had these ideals and the new earth had these ideals. And it was like a download. I just got it and I knew it. It was truth for me, and I could not know it. And so I didn't know where it came from or why I was getting it. I just knew it. And so I started trying to structure my life based on this new earth ideal, and seeing where my vibration dipped into an old earth ideal and stuff, and trying to correct that. And at that same time, this little lady's popping up on my YouTube, and finally after 4 months, I listened to her and I was like, oh, well, that's obviously the path I need to take. I'm being guided on a certain trajectory by getting little signs along the way. So because I wasn't listening to her, my higher self decided to give me the information anyway, so that when I did finally listen to her, I had no doubt that I was supposed to do this work. But I couldn't just quit my job. You know, I had a very high paying job, and it would not have been acceptable in my family to just stop earning money. So I had to wait for a beautiful layoff. And then I had the green light to go take the training, and it was wonderful. And in my training, I had my first personal session, and I asked, you know, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I know I'm not an accountant. I know I'm meant for something bigger, because during my job, I was always like counseling people, not doing accounting, basically. It was not doing accounting. I would get the job done, but I don't know. They probably figured that out as well. And it said, when we accessed my higher self, it said, you're supposed to do this. People are going to line up to come to you for sessions. You are supposed to do this. And so thank God I had that, because it helped give me that faith and that hope that, you know, eventually I could do this for a living and actually make an earning from it. That kept me going. So it was beautiful to have that. So that's how I started doing this, was just kind of following the very obvious breadcrumbs. You know, like I'm one of those people, I don't pick up really little subtle signs. I need to get hit over the head by a hammer half the time. So that's what happened. I got hit over the head by a hammer to do this stuff. And it's been great. I get to meet a new person every single day, listen to their life story, because that's one of the most important parts of doing these sessions is getting to know this person and hearing what's important to them, what they've struggled with, because that helps you guide them through the higher self area and stuff. The higher self will give them tons of information. They don't necessarily think, for example, my higher self might not think that what little Allison, think is important. They might not think that's important. They might just be like, no, that we don't care about love or relationships, like that kind of little stuff. We want the bigger picture stuff. And no, so the hypnotist needs to bring it back. They need to find out what's important to the individual and bring back the session to what's important to the individual, as well as getting the bigger picture stuff. So that interview, that pre-interview and getting to know the person is hugely important, and to build up trust for them to go down to these levels. So I'm just going off on my own interview, sorry.
I interview yourself. So, self.
I will talk all day.
Well, I know that's, that would be the tricky thing, to be the facilitator, for lack of a better term. You have to have enough knowledge to how to lead this and to draw more, like you said, to get them to go deeper.
Yeah.
That would be the real hard part for me.
That is definitely one aspect, getting them deeper. And the other thing is bringing them back from such a huge esoteric deep level back to something that's applicable to their 3D life and their 3D struggles. Because it's not enough to have all the bigger picture stuff. Some people just need to know how to navigate the everyday as well, and how to apply, how to take this higher ideal guidance and apply it to their everyday in tangible ways. That is hugely important, because it's not enough to know this big stuff. How do I use it in my everyday life to help me with people, and to help me with all of my struggles, to help me make money, to stay afloat? You need that stuff.
Yeah.
So that is something that I enjoy doing.
How do you talk about daily struggles, and that's like something everybody can relate to, I would think.
Yeah.
But how much of that do you see as being somehow related to past lives or past traumatic experiences? How much of that actually comes and is a part of, this life now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually fascinating to find out, to go through the regression and get to the higher self and find out like how much of this person's struggle, an individual's struggle, has to do with old imprints from past lives, where they either took vows of poverty in the past during a life, and they've carried that with them, or they've hurt people in the past and they've carried that with them, or they've been hurt by certain people. It's a huge percentage of their current struggle is based on their past and hurts that they're carrying along with them. And they hold those hurts in certain areas of the body. So we're able to kind of pull them out and release them and fill them with light, love, energy, healing, and they're able to go on their path in a different way. But I always ask the higher self, I'm like, well, what if in a couple of days this client starts replaying that old hurt again? What if she just puts the old record on? Well, we get guidance for how she can not do that, how to help her not do that, kind of like distractions, if you will.
So how does that attach? We're in a different body every life.
Well, it's attached to the soul. It's kind of like the soul has decided not to heal it in a way. So you carry it with you. So it's kind of a soul imprint. So you have to heal the soul and release it on a soul level. Yeah. So it's not just attached to the physical body, but it helps them. It affects them in a very physical way usually. So we can help pull it out of the physical body, but it's multiple levels of the body, not just physical.
Would you consider the soul to be the higher self, or is the higher self a different spirit?
Well, the higher self is definitely one of the larger parts of the soul. Yes, it's like the highest part of the soul that's not attached to the physical body. It's like a stream, if you will. So the higher self is the non-incarnated version of your soul.
Would the higher self then carry some of those traumatic experiences, or is it kind of insulated from it? Is it more perfected, and then the soul carries the burden?
Yeah, it's interesting because on a so I think there are multiple levels where this stuff is stored, but we're talking to a higher perspective that doesn't it keeps the records almost of the hurts, but it's not affected by them so much. But but the aspect that's in this physical body is the one that has those fears, has those things that are carried over from the past. What I see a lot of is I see a lot of hurt from people who were healers in the past, who were shamans in the past, who were medicine people in the past, and who were persecuted, or who were psychics in the past, clairvoyants, and who were persecuted for having these gifts. Either their village turned on them, or they were burned to the stake because of religious orders or anything. And so what they carried with them in this incarnation is, I can't show up. I have to hide my light. I can't show it to everybody because I'm going to be destroyed, basically, if I show it to everybody. And they come to me because they something doesn't sit right with them. They've been struggling their whole life. And then the higher self comes in, and they say, that's because she's not living to her potential, or he's not living to his potential. He's hiding who he truly is. He needs to heal that hurt that he's carried over lifetimes with him from being killed or persecuted for having these gifts. This is the life where they need to show up. So, and by healing themselves and by showing up, they're actually healing the world and healing the collective. And it has to start on that micro level. So it is a huge gift for people to come in and heal those aspects of themselves. It's a huge gift to all of us.
You know, Dolores talked a lot about, you know, the waves of volunteers that came here, you know, the first waves. And we give them other names like the indigos, the rainbows, the crystals, and I'm pretty sure I'm an indigo. And so I'm just wondering, do you come across a lot of these types, that Dolores talks when you have your clients? Does that, them coming in as a volunteer to do this job, that really a hard job, does that interfere a lot with their living here in this 3D world?
Yeah, you know that I don't get a lot of that. I don't get a lot of people who are that are like defined by the 3 waves of volunteers. I don't. It's like every single one of them. It seems like every single client of mine is like volunteered. They volunteered, so they just answered a call, and so it's not. I don't get the. Just in my practice, it doesn't mean it's not in everybody's practice or whatever. I don't get something that can be defined by 3 waves. I never get that, or I don't see that trend. But it's like every single one volunteered to help in some way. So we all have such a purpose here to help. It's beautiful, and it's huge, and it's such a symphony, you know, with all of us showing up and trying to heal ourselves and signing up for certain soul growth so that it would prompt us to wake up at some point and be of service and be of purpose. And it's huge. It's so beautiful to see. So beautiful to see.
Now, you talked about the splitting of the earths earlier. Is that something that comes through a lot of your clients? Do a lot of your clients see this, like, you know, I don't know how they would term it. It's a choice to evolve, or, you know, it's just the splitting, the old earth, the new earth, and maybe the people who don't want to evolve stay on the 3rd earth, and the ones who do want to go to the new earth. I mean, how are they describing it, or how are they seeing this?
Oh man, this is one of those things that's like, the more I hear, the more confused I am. I'm like, oh my gosh. So some people see it as something that happens internally. Some people see it as something that happens externally, or it's happening internally at first, where we live in the new earth in our hearts at first, in our vibration at first, on an energetic level, and then eventually we're going to see it manifested in the physical. But it is something where it splits the population on a vibrational scale. So people who are waking up and who are attracted to these higher vibrations, this higher vibration of living, will be on one area, will go into one area. And people who, you know, are happy living in the fear and the muck and the mire will be staying in the lower vibrations and living that cycle of life out. And so that is the theme that runs through all of them. It's just they're what I get in my sessions is that there's multiple levels of new earths there, because they all have a different vibration. And so some people will be going to a 5D, some people going beyond. And so that's the one where I'm like, oh, I need to like draw this out in like a computer animated like detail, because it's not sitting in my brain properly. That's just me. I need it drawn out in some way. But it's fascinating. And it's beautiful. And people go to these, they during these sessions, sometimes when we take them through a past life, like I said, we call it a past life, but it's not always in the past. It's not always on Earth. Sometimes they go to a new Earth experience, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is Edenic. It is so lovely. And then some people, when they go to a new Earth experience, they go to light bodies and crystalline existence. So that's how I know that there's multiple levels of new Earths, multiple dimensions. So it is fascinating stuff, man. I love it. And we just barely scratched the surface of it, of the knowledge that's there.
I think what you said, you know, like there's so many different levels. It's like thinking about a tree. You know, there's so many rings to a tree, and I think the Earth is the same thing, you know? I mean.
Yes, I think that's a great analogy for it. Yes, the rings of a tree. That is perfect. Perfect. There's so many different levels.
Yeah, we had dinner last night, and it's funny because I'm vegan, vegetarian, and my husband orders a ham and cheese sandwich. And I'm just like, okay, which level are you still hanging on?
Yeah, the delicious one, where animals don't hurt. I know I got the same thing going on. Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah. I can't. Once you're aware of the consciousness that lives in all things, it's pretty hard to continue on a path that you know is causing harm, or emotional and physical harm to anybody. It's pretty difficult to divorce yourself from that once you, from my perspective, from what I do for a living, I can't harm the way I could unconsciously years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But meat eaters aren't, they aren't going to be stopped from going to the new Earth at all. No. So just so you know. That doesn't stop them from going to the new Earth. And even in these sessions, the higher self, they give diet advice to each person, because you know that affects their health, and their clarity and their consciousness. And it's not always veganism. It's different for each person, just because of their physical makeup. So I always have to check myself. Okay, this is my right choice for me, but I can't judge my husband, who like he eats meat. I'm pretty sure 3 days of meat, three times a day, every day. So it's like, all right, that's just his path. I can't judge.
It's funny. I've had dreams, a slew of dreams lately, and they, you know, whatever's happening, there'll be some aspect where I'm offered food. there's like in my dreams always is like something being offered, trying to get me to eat something, or I'm dreaming about food all the time. That's kind of
That's interesting. So are you given choices, like multiple choices of offerings, and you're just having to pick right, or is it just like finally I get to eat?
it's more like it's being given to me, almost like I'm someone's trying to get me to eat that.
Okay. And is it appealing to you? Sorry, this is the dream.
Sometimes it is, but then I just have a awareness that I'm a little reluctant to eat something in a dream.
Okay.
You know, that's not something I want to do. So I don't know if that's an aspect of maybe being a little more aware in a dream.
Yeah, very lucid almost.
Almost, yeah. I wouldn't say I really am completely lucid in dreaming, but that will kind of wake me up, and it's like, no, I don't want to eat that, you know.
That's fascinating, because I never have that in my dreams. I'm never like, yeah, I'm not going to eat because that's a waste of my time in my dream, or it could poison me or something. But it's interesting that you're given offerings of what you're like something to ingest. That's what we have to look at it as. Like in your dream, you're being given something to ingest, and you're making a choice about whether or not to ingest that. And how does that play out in your regular life? Because that's what dreams are. They're kind of your higher self saying, here, Zach, here's some information. We want you to actually apply this to your regular 3D life. And so when we're looking at, you're given things, that offerings to put in your body, to put in your mind, basically, that's what your dream is. And so it'd be interesting to pay a little more attention to the food, or what the feelings of it, because that might be something that's playing out in your regular life. Like you're being given stuff, somebody's offering you something in your regular life, and you're saying, no, I don't want to ingest that. I don't want to put it in my consciousness. So it would be interesting to see how that actually plays out.
You're so right on, because what I know about him, he doesn't believe anything. Everybody's giving him information, and he's just like, wait a minute.
Nope.
Yep. Yep. And I'm always on his case about it.
Okay. So yeah, we might be, your higher self might be giving you some signs, in there. And that's why I said you'll want to pay attention to your feelings during that part. Is it something that looks good to you, or do you feel like you're almost being force fed a little bit?
Yeah,
and it could be you processing that feeling of being force fed.
Yeah, sometimes it's that way. And it's interesting. A lot of times it is meat. I choose to not eat animals or fish or anything like that. So that's kind of an interesting aspect. I think that often it is some kind of meat that is being offered, and I'll like catch myself starting to eat it, but then I'm like, well, no, I don't want to eat that here. Who are you giving this to me? It's kind of like I have a trust in me too. I'm not trusting.
That's what it equates to then, is like you'll be able to tell in your everyday life if you're being offered something, and a form of information, if you will, a belief system, and then in your dream it equates to meat, then you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to, that's something that I don't need to put in my consciousness. But if it's a beautiful tray of fruit and some Vietnamese food, and it appeals to you, maybe that's your higher self saying, hey, you might want to actually take a bite of this one, actually ingest a little bit of this information. So yeah, that is interesting. So for you, it comes across as something that's not palatable, or you made a choice not to eat that, in real life. So that's how it's coming across in your dream. Fascinating.
So something's happening in my life that,
Yeah.
well, I'm conscious here in this state of consciousness, I'm resisting, or I'm saying I don't want it, and so that's how it's playing out in the dream. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It might be, it's a clue as to whether or not the information is coming across this palette as something that you would like, or you would want to ingest, or you would want to believe in, or if you just want to have it skip right by you and just say, no, I'm not interested in that. That's kind of, it seems like that's how it's playing out in your dream as food, because that's what it is. It's the dreams come over as symbols in a symbolic manner. And so for you, it was eating, ingesting. So, and that's what we're doing with information and belief systems. Sorry, the sun is like coming in. Sorry, I'm in Oregon. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, so the sun just hit. Where did the clouds go? Hold on, I'm going to shift or get my sunglasses on. All right. So, yeah. So you're like being offered information as we live in the information age. There's so many different things we can believe in and choose not to believe in, or pay attention to, or not pay attention to. And that's when you're in a field like you're in, where you're doing these interviews and stuff, it's like you have to decide what you're going to believe in and what you're not going to believe in, or what you're going to let into your system and what you're not going to let into your system, using your own discernment. And your dreams are helping you with that discernment, in my opinion. By showing you things like, well, this is going to come across as a plate of meat, so don't take it, don't ingest it. But like Denise kind of helped clue us into that. Like you're being given information all the time, or beliefs, or, you know, you should look into this, you should look into that. But sometimes you don't, it might not be good for you as an individual to look into that stuff. I don't know. Pay a little bit more attention to that part of the dream, and we'll see how it looks.
Yeah, maybe try to see who is offering it too. Maybe
yes.
I can get that much awareness. You know, I still haven't gotten to that state where I feel I'm that lucid. In dream.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know who was involved with that.
There's a lot of information that you could still mine from that dream, and you don't have to be lucid necessarily. You just have to try to remember it. Yeah. So being lucid is being able to make a decision within the dream itself, but remembering it is totally different, and that's pretty doable, easier than being lucid during it.
Yeah.
But fascinating stuff, man. These dreams, they are just fascinating.
So dreams connect to the higher self?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What is beyond the higher self?
I don't know. I mean, there's like source, there's super consciousness, there's, I mean, I would be remiss to even think that I knew a tenth of that, but I get little clues every now and then. So, but it's I'm wise enough to know that I don't know. Basically. That's all I got. No, there's something.
So what, you know, when you talk about super conscious and higher self, and then we talk about, you know, how there's certain entities that have been sort of dumbing us down, or you're putting the veil over us so we can't, you know, be who we truly are. When you have these sessions, apparently you're able to breach that block. You know, sometimes I feel like when I'm doing something, I just can feel this block, you know, so it's interesting. Then the higher self can actually breach this, I guess.
Yes, because if you think about a block, especially on humans and the earth, it's not on a soul level. It's on this level, on a physical level. That's where the block exists. And it can be a block of an energetic block. So certain dimensions, you on a physical level can't get to higher dimensions of thinking, because you're being numbed and you're being dumbed and you're being affected in so many ways that we don't even have a clue about. But then on a soul level, you don't have that. you're not being blocked. They don't have the ability to block you on that higher soul level. So when we reach something like the higher consciousness, we're able to get answers, a higher perspective, and a view of this clarity, this absolute beautiful clarity about why you're going through the issues that you're going, without having that block in the way. And that clarity is like the best drug in the world. I swear to God, as a mature adult, there's nothing better than having that clarity. I swear.
That clarity too is emotional. I think that's why there's so much crying during these sessions, because it's true. It's, you just know it with your whole essence that it's true, and it's so emotional.
I think that is exactly right. Having this clarity all at once is, it is what a lot of that emotional response, that crying, is from. It's just like, oh God, now I know. G.I. Joe was right. Knowing is half the battle.
I can't claim to be a mature adult myself, so I won't go there. But.
So no clarity for you. Yeah. You know you're mature when clarity does it.
Well, when I had my session, it was so out of the world that the first thing I said to her when I got done was like, am I full of shit? She's like, everybody says that.
Absolutely. Everybody does ask that or think that. They're like, did I make that all up? Like, and so during the higher self portion, I usually ask, what would you tell this person if they asked if they made it all up, or if they said they made it all up? We tell her that she would never make this up. They have some smart ass remark all the time. It's hilarious. Something that puts the person right in their place. It's so funny. But yeah, that is always, a part of a session, is just kind of wondering if you've made it all up. But I know me, I would never make up the lives that I got to see, or the answers that I got, because they didn't serve me. They didn't serve me on an Allison level as much as I would want. So I would never make that up. I would make up something much more self-serving.
Where is the higher self?
Huh?
Where is the higher self? I mean, where does that, what realm, or where?
I think the question is where aren't they? No.
That's the short list, huh? I like it.
Where don't they exist? Man, they see you everywhere. They know everything about you. No, it's, I mean, when you just think about locations, I have no idea where they are. I just know that they're not in your body right now. They're outside of your body in an energetic level. So they're everywhere and they're nowhere. How's that for an answer?
Because it is interacting in this realm.
What was that?
They are interacting in this realm. I mean, they are present here, or they are in another dimension, and it's just somehow through an energy attachment that they communicate, or are they actually present in this realm, in the physical matter realm?
So an aspect of your higher self, which is in your physical body, is present in this physical realm, and they're still connected to you. It's like a stream that they're connected to you still, but they live outside of the physical. And then to take it even into another direction, or to let it go deeper, you're not just one person living one existence on a soul level. There are multiple aspects of you living existences, and not all of them are on this physical plane all at the same time. And so your higher self is the umbrella part of that, with the little pieces of energy shooting down into incarnated beings. So, well, I don't know where that exists technically. I mean, there's no real term. You could call it the ethers. You could call it a higher dimension. but you know, I don't exactly know. It's non-physical, but an aspect of themselves are always in the physical. So they have the view of the physical and the non-physical at the same time. That's why they're so accessing that part of our energy is so helpful to get answers about the physical, because they can see it from this higher view. They know what we signed up for, what lessons we signed up for, what lives we've had, because they're able to see it all at the same time. And so they know where we're going. They know where we're going in this life, where we're going afterwards. And so that is why accessing that energy is so powerful and brings us so much clarity. And we don't have that on a egoic conscious level in these little bodies. We have to actually go a little bit deeper to access that.
So does that mean that everything's already happened? If they know where we're going, then everything I am to do in this life as this version of this soul, so maybe there's more than one soul. If it all comes from the higher self, the higher spirit, and I'm in different realms, different dimensions, different timelines, different parallel dimensions, worlds, whatever, different aspects. So I've got more than one soul, all ties back to this. But if they know where we're going, does that mean everything's already happened?
No, it doesn't mean that. It means more like, so you still have choices to make every day, and those choices affect where you actually go and when you go and who you meet and all this stuff. So it doesn't mean that they know that your life is already planned out. It means you have a purpose, you have a soul growth, you have kind of a blueprint, but you're still actively making those choices every day. You have free will about whether or not you decide to learn lessons or not learn lessons. You have free will whether or not you decide to have relationships or not have relationships. You have complete free will about whether or not you decide to ingest information or not ingest information. Kind of like with that Dolores Canon stuff that I mentioned earlier. It's like I was given a choice whether or not to listen to her on day 1 or finally listen to her on day 120. And that affected my life about whether or not I listened to her on day 1 or 120 and how I went forward with my life. Now, they know that they want us to meet certain people. We signed up to meet certain people or have certain events take place in our life, but how we react to those events, that's completely up to us. And when I say they know where we're going, means after this incarnation, they know where we go as a soul level. We go back to a certain area. So, but the next life, it's still going to be planned out a little bit.
That's an interesting segue. Have you talked to anybody that was in between lifetimes?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We go, that there is an opportunity to, after we go through, if we go to a regular past life, after we go through the life and we generally take the person to death, they experience the death, and then afterwards they're outside of the body. And then we have the choice of taking them to where they go outside of a body when they're freed from the body, and what that looks like, what that process looks like of going and entering back into a higher energy and meeting up with other souls that have now been released from their incarnations, going to a council and planning their next lives because of the soul growth that they need. So it is fascinating the journey that the soul takes once it's released from these bodies. It's amazing.
You know, my grandma just died last Thursday, and it was really interesting because I actually felt the moment that she left this plane, and her and my grandpa were really, really, really close. And it's so interesting because everybody goes, oh, they're together. Oh, you know, and then you envision that they met and they're still living the same lifestyle as they were in this 3D earth. And, you know, and I don't really think that's the case. I think maybe they're part of a soul group, you know, and they might have shared a brother and sister lifetime before, you know. So I'm sure you probably come across a lot of that stuff where
I do. And that, yeah, let me just say, I'm really sorry for her passing.
She was
I know
97.
that's hard. Yeah, that doesn't help. My grandmother just passed last year and she was 96, and it was like, well, that, even though I can think that for other people, it doesn't always make it that much easier to deal with the hole that people leave behind, you know, their present, just the absence of them. Anyway, so I am sorry. And yes, we do go and we see when we go on this journey outside of the life, it is more of these souls coming back for a reunion, and not and I always ask, what do they look like? You know, what do you look like now that you've been released from the physical body? Oh, I'm just like this big ball of energy. And I'm like, okay, do you have a color? What do you appear like? Well, I'm like this wavy, shimmery, and then they'll name a color. And then they'll go and they'll meet when they'll go and they'll be traveling. And I never am like, okay, you're traveling now, tell me about it. No, I'm like, do you decide to stay or what do you do? Well, I'm being kind of pulled up. All of them describe it the same way. I'm traveling, I'm being kind of pulled up. And now I'm there. I've arrived at some kind of bright light, bright, beautiful place. And I'm with others that have passed or others that are in my soul group. And so they reunite almost on a soul level there, and they're with their group and they're going to plan their next lives. And some of them aren't there yet because their aspects are still living the physical life. So it's amazing that, yeah, they travel from life to life to life together because they're learning these lessons together. They signed up to learn these lessons together, and they're just interchanging parts, interchanging roles. Yeah. So your concept, I see your concept, that what you said, more often than the other, where they're like grandma and grandpa living together as, you know, in this other world. No, I see it's more reuniting as a soul level, and then deciding how you're going to go through the next life together.
Would you say that you can, in these sessions, these events, see the future?
The future in this life?
Of say, of a client.
Yeah. So what I do, this is something that I do, and I absolutely love it. And that's not tooting my own horn. It's like I don't know if other practitioners are doing this or not, but I can just say this is what I do. When we get to the higher self, and the higher self is telling a client, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, I always say, can you show us what her life is going to be like, or what his life is going to be like in 2 years if she follows that, and then in a couple years. And it's like they get this whole like they get this whole view, and they get the feelings that go along with it. Oh yeah, you know, their life is going to be amazing. They're going to be so healthy, or they're going to be so they're going to affect so many people by putting out this book, or by doing this. They're going to completely heal themselves. They're going to them healing themselves will help their loved ones start to heal themselves. I mean, it's beautiful, projecting them into 2 years. And then I do the opposite. I say, well, can you show us what their life is going to be like in 2 years if they don't do that? And it is so drastic. It is kind of like playing devil's advocate a little bit, because it shows them exactly two opposite views. So they have free will, their choice about whether or not to do something, but let's see what the effects of their choices are in a couple of years. They'll either completely change their life by doing something that it is meant for them to do, and living their purpose, showing up and living their purpose, basically, or numbing and dumbing themselves and not living their purpose. And what kind of effect will that have on their life? And it is powerful. It is so powerful. It's usually a game changer for them to see that effect that they're having. So big stuff. So in that way, we do get to see the future.
Kind of like the Scrooge movie.
Yeah.
if you don't do this, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. And this is how your life and your choices affect everybody around you, because they get to see that, they get to feel it in their body as well. They get the emotional responses to that. So it's huge being able to kind of project people in that way. Yeah. I love doing that stuff. Oh my God.
What about the event? I heard you talk about the event. Is anybody coming up with, are they bringing forward any information through your clients?
Yes, absolutely. This supernatural event that you're speaking of, that's what it comes over as, a supernatural event that's going to affect the earth, kind of like a wave of energy coming to the earth. And soon, very soon, they all say it's very soon. And when the higher self says something soon, that doesn't mean anything. Like that could be like 5 years. Are we talking about 5 years soon? 10 years soon? So I'm always trying to be like, okay, is it within a year? Is it within this? Because they live outside of time.
Yeah.
So when you get something where they say soon, I always try to narrow it down. So what I have is generally within the next 3 to 9 months, this window of a supernatural event coming soon. Now, when I say this is what I have, it comes through my clients. So it's kind of like I'm reporting what's coming through. So I have no I don't really have an attachment to whether or not this happens at this certain time. Like I'm like, well, it could. Everybody's saying it, but it's amazing when so many people are getting this information, and it's all similar, and these people don't know each other, and they're separated by months. They're separated by hundreds of miles. One could be a 20-year-old guy and one could be a 70-year-old woman, and they could be separated by 3 or 4 months in these sessions, and they're all saying the same thing. That a supernatural event is coming, that some energy is going to hit the earth and will change everybody, and nobody will escape this kind of higher energy coming and hitting the earth, and that our lives will be completely different. Our hearts will open up. It will project us into this higher dimensional living, and that will change the systems, help change the systems that are currently in existence on the earth, the political systems, the educational systems, healthcare systems. We will have disclosure of all of this technology that's available to us right now, but isn't available to us right now, is being hidden and cloaked from us right now, or being controlled. And so this is the future of this incarnation right here on earth right now. And that doesn't change with my sessions, that everyone is kind of describing it the same way. And it's amazing. It's so cool to hear. The timeline is a little tricky, because they're like, yeah, it's going to happen soon, and we're not going to tell this person because we want them to be prepared all the time. We don't ever want them to know. I'm like, God damn it, just give me a damn date. No, they don't deal with dates. They just deal with like time frames, like, yeah, like soon, very soon. So it could happen any minute now. It's exciting.
When you least expect it.
When you least expect it, yeah. I hear from a lot of people, I'm like, so where's this person going to be during the event? Oh, they'll be home doing dishes. And like, I get that a lot. Is everybody just gonna be doing their dishes at home when this happens? Or I'll get people reaching out to me, and they'll be like, I just want to be sure, are people going to be, what if they're driving and this event happens? Are they going to die? I'm like, I have no clue, man. I don't know like what each individual, what's going to happen to each individual yet, but my clients get answers for what's going to happen for them. So that's good. They're all doing the dishes.
They're thinking on the lines of the rapture, all of a sudden 144,000 people would just disappear.
Yeah, that was interesting to finally get, okay, this isn't necessarily the rapture. Because I think there was a lot of confusion there for a while when you think about a big wave of energy hitting the earth, and is that going to cause a split And the information I get is mostly that gets people prepared for ascension. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be the event where some people leave. I try to get as much information as possible in each session, but sometimes I don't get, like, the higher self will only give what it wants us to know. Sometimes knowing too much can alter things, or they're just like, no, that's not helpful. That will distract you from living the life that you're meant to live right now. So I get that a lot, like put in my place a lot. Damn it.
Would you say, Allison, that you have been to the quote unquote new earth? Have you experienced that yourself?
I can honestly say that I have experienced it through meditations. Definitely. I've experienced it through the sessions that I have with clients who have actually gone there. It's like, I can, as soon as they go there, I actually can tap in and go there as well. I see what they see, and it's freaking beautiful. I can feel it in my heart. I go there in dreams sometimes, and like I said, through my meditations, and that is actually normal for them, for people to tap into the new earth that in those ways, through the feelings, through emotions, through your vibration first, before you ever kind of like see it, in front of you. That is the basic law of law of attraction, is you got to feel things first. It's a feeling first. It's a vibrational thing first before it ever manifests on physical. So yes, I can honestly say that I have had glimpses of it, and experiences where I'm completely in alignment with it, for sure. Absolutely. How about you guys?
Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had moments of that, just extreme joy and just feeling can do no wrong,
Yeah.
just more of a perfected state or something. But
Yes. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, I was just to say they're like you said, they're just blips.
Yeah.
This goes by so fast, and so spend the rest of your time trying to get that feeling again, chasing that time. Right.
So I actually, one time when, in one of my sessions, I really like this. In one of my sessions, we asked how the client, when the client is in alignment with New Earth, and when they're carrying that feeling with them, what is it? What is that feeling? Because I was like, I want something tangible that they can say, this is the New Earth, when I feel like this. And they said delight. When any person is in that state of delight, just this beautiful, like, whee, joy and bliss and just love, and that is the New Earth. That's when they're carrying the New Earth with them. And if anything gives them that state, anything external gives them that feeling, then they should do more of it, and they should also cultivate that within themselves through things like meditation, being in nature, healing themselves, releasing stuff. That's the path to delight. So that's something, that bliss, that joy, delight, that's all New Earth.
So that was great. I had a note here. Early on, we were talking about souls and carrying stuff from past life, and so like souls have, you maybe call that karma, maybe something you could call it, but it's like attached to the soul as trauma, or these negative emotions, whatever, are still there. They're still attached, even though we're in a different body. Yeah. And so by coming aware of them, that's one step to clearing that. Absolutely. But there's got to be so much more to actually clear that, because I know for myself, you mentioned too, they kind of want to come back.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really completely get cleared. What more could you add to that people could, endeavor into to make that more sustainable?
Well, so usually it's things like feeding their self-love and their self-worth, things that feed them on a soul level, taking care of themselves, actually taking time out to do things that they love, being creative, doing things like meditation, and actually doing things like Reiki and hypnosis, any things where they're actually just being conscious of healing themselves and being conscious of feeding themselves the right things and actually taking time to spread love and enjoy love. All of that actually helps release those old kind of patterns that they fall into. But yes, the awareness is the key, absolute awareness. Also, I heard this may fall under some of that, but when we talk about time and healing the body, I had this one client who she had this injury in I think it was one of her legs had this injury on it, and it was an old hurt. So it's not anything that's current. It's from her past, from her youth in this life. And when I was talking to the higher self, I was like, what's going on with her leg? How can we get it healed? And they said that the pain was attached to a memory. And every time that she remembered this hurt, this traumatic event in her life, that actually she was reigniting that pain. And that's why she still has it with her. And I said, okay, well, what is the best way then to relieve herself of the pain? Is it to get rid of the memory? What is your idea of how to release that? And they said, we want her to go in and actually remember this event differently. We want her to rewrite it the way she wished it had happened. And so, and that will actually set up a whole new timeline and erase that physical hurt. And I was like, holy crap. But it was probably like, holy shit, to be serious. I was like, holy shit. And I was like, okay, this is fascinating. Okay, so that's complete free will, whether or not she did that. But on my end, I took that information and I applied it to something in my own life that I was carrying around with me. I was like, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do like a little meditation, a little visualization, and visualize this one event in my life completely differently than it happened. And just see if that changes that kind of hurt that I carry around with me. And I have to tell you, I did that. I actually took some time and relived it differently in my head. I imagined it from start to finish, how I wished it would have happened. I didn't, it would be really easy for me to go in and have the logical part of me say, but it didn't happen that way. And this, and this, and this, and this, and this. No, I had to actually get rid of my ego and my logic and just do it on an emotional level and say, okay, this is what happened. Now, after that, I could not go back and see the old memory, even if I tried. And I took that and I was like, okay, I'm just going to have this be what happened. Have this new timeline that I created be what happened. And I don't carry around any of that hurt with me anymore because of that. So that concept has been fascinating me lately, because I've heard it a couple times in my sessions that when people relive something differently, they're actually healing themselves. Mm-hmm. Now that can screw with people a little bit, because they're like, oh, then that's a cop out, that's this, that's that. But if you're actually healing yourself, then maybe it's not a cop out. So anyway, it's something to ponder, and it's something that can affect every individual in a different way, and it's up to them whether they want to do it. But I think it's a absolutely fascinating thing. So I think people can use that as well, that tool of remembering things differently, creating the life that they wished right now. There's actually this thing called retrocausality in quantum physics, where they say that the future can actually have an effect on the past. And that is something I heard after that I had that session. I was like, that's what that is. It's retrocausality. We're actually doing something right now that's actually affecting the past and then rewriting it going forward. It's like time is not linear. But we can have an effect on it right now.
But
it's fascinating.
How far could we take that? Say there was an automobile accident. and say I was able to go through and effectively replay that in my mind, in feelings, senses, smell, taste, whatever, sound, and replay that to where that accident is avoided. Does that car then come back to not have damage to it? Does the physical body, if say I had an arm, say I lost my hand in a car wreck, and I did this, I went through, does my hand come back? Does the car come back?
So I think we're just at the tip of this iceberg of understanding what effects this has. So we're going to have to actually, all of us, try it in order to find that out. That's the only way I can approach this. Is it's starting to grow. But it's logic would tell you no. But what I know is that logic isn't always the answer. So all we can do is experiment, right? So that's what I was doing. I was taking the information that I got and applying it to something that was affecting me and experimenting with that. And that's everybody's choice. It's to take something, try it out with their own life, try it out small. It's always better to try things small first and relive them differently, and then see if you can get bigger and better and bigger and better results. I think it's fascinating. Now, later I heard in a session that the new earth is the earth remembering itself in its Edenic state. Okay, so that's what it is, the earth remembering itself in its perfect, most beautiful state. And then I took that information so that was from one client, and then that other client had said, we want her to remember her life differently, remember that traumatic event differently, and then it will completely change her timeline. What if on a bigger level, we imagined the earth back as it was, we visualized it, we took that little exercise and we imagined it never having been hurt, never having gone through colonialism and all of this stuff. What if we as a group, as a collective, started visualizing it not having been raped and pillaged and completely, destroyed on a surface level? What if we did that? Would that start healing the earth? Might be a fun experiment to try.
Wouldn't that somehow, what's the word I'm looking for? Intercede on others' free will?
Well, that would be the thing. It would be your individual. You would have to do it yourself. And if you can get a collective, then it's them doing it too. And that is the essence of free will.
But I mean, if we do this and it changes events, and I'm doing this on myself, say just back to me personally, and I change something that happened to me that also affected somebody else. Well, I'm changing what affected them too then, aren't I?
Well, not necessarily. That's the one thing that we don't know. You might be changing your timeline and it might not affect them at all.
They might stay on their own.
They might still be on their own timeline.
Yeah.
So, but this is where
creating another one of those tree rings.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that everybody has to jump on that ring. It's just choose to.
But I think it's a fascinating topic. It's like we're getting little pieces of almost what we could do, what we're capable of in each of these sessions. So it would be fun to experiment and apply this stuff, Like I said, I tried it on my own. I tried it on something very small that affected me. And I think everybody should do that. And I'm talking small. I'm not talking about the huge. Don't start big, start small, and see how that affects you, and make sure that you're controlling yourself enough to not go back and relive the car accident or this or that. You're actually living the one that you decide to live.
Wow. And
just try it. Why not? I mean, it literally worked for me. It was crazy.
I think what's happening here is we're healing the emotion and the cellular memory and emotion of this event. It doesn't mean that we're going to, let's say you have a baby and your baby dies at birth. and you're just traumatized for years. Well, what if you go back and you envision that baby living and living his life out? And then what you're doing is you're healing that emotion, that when you wake up from that work, you don't carry that depression and the traumatic feelings anymore. You're able to work through that more. I think that's a lot of what you probably do.
Yeah, I think that would be tough. So that would fall under like a big one to try to redo. But yeah, ultimately you want to heal yourself. You want to heal your emotions. So I have this beautiful, wonderful companion dog who I've had for the last 10 years, and she died last week.
Oh.
And it was terrible. It was terribly sad for all of us. I mean, we lost somebody. Mm-hmm. And would I go back and change that? Because I know what I know, can I change that timeline? And I had to make a choice and be like, no, I don't even want to attempt to do that. That was her journey. That was her path. And I want to actually, going forward, I want to actually, release those emotions, feel them, heal them, and release them, because I also know that's part of this existence too. So it's kind of trying to use it the right way. Like, I think if you're carrying around guilt and shame and things like that, that is stuff that needs to be released, rewritten, and stuff like that. That was what I was carrying from an event. But when you're talking about just birth and life and birth, death, all that kind of stuff, and just living in the moment, things are going to happen and they are going to hurt, and you are going to have to just deal and heal, but be aware that you're doing those things. Did I have a couple more drinks than normal last week? Hell yeah. But I also hit the gym hard, because I was like, I'm aware of what I need to do to heal when I lose somebody or something. And I also am aware of what is okay to do. It's okay to do. I was like, I'm going to do a tiny bit of numbing, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to also move the energy through working out and lifting weights and stuff. Cause I know that helps me. I know they both help me a little bit. So it's kind of wrapping your head around what's normal here, what we shouldn't try to fix, and what maybe we could fix. So I don't know if we should fix the death of a child or even attempt that, but should we fix the hurt? Well, we should definitely release any of the guilt and the shame and fear and stuff that we're carrying, that's affecting us now and holding us back from living our purpose and living the life we need to live. So that is what I know.
That's beautiful.
So what would you say? I know you're talking about how we got into this in the first place through one of your clients, how you were able to go back and kind of change it up a little bit, change that past. That's pretty profound. Is there somebody else, one of your other clients, that you got some information from that just kind of wowed you?
Oh, every day. Every single client, every single session has information that just wows the shit out of me. I'm serious, like, where I'm like, what the hell? That is just amazing. I mean, I had these cousins, these beautiful women. They were cousins, and they were each having their own session. And one of them had lost their brother, and the other one, it was their cousin. He disappeared in Hawaii, he was pronounced dead at sea, basically, but there's no evidence that he ever even got into the water. It was a fascinating story and heartbreaking on so many levels. But for these women, they were like, no, we know he's not dead. We absolutely know he's not dead. He's just not here. We don't think he's dead. And that alone was like trippy, and that's on their conscious level, where they're like, no, we're pretty sure he's not dead. And even the mother of the man who disappeared was like, yeah, I don't think my son's not dead. Okay, so we get to their higher self, and the higher self is like, no, he went through a portal. he went through a portal opened up on his path, and he went through it, and he made a choice to go through that portal, and he didn't die. That's why there was no evidence of him having, like, because he went on a trail with his backpack, everything, in Hawaii, and none of his stuff was ever found. Nothing.
Wow.
It's a fascinating story. So stuff like that just blows my mind. Because, okay, what is he doing? Where is he?
Yeah.
What? And they're like, oh, he's in this kind of like void existence. He's not in the physical. He's in this kind of like other dimension. And he made a choice to go through this gateway because it would help so many people. He's actually part of this process of pulling more people toward a higher vibration. And they said it much more eloquently than I'm gonna say it, but it was beautiful. It was so cool. And he made that choice. He was given the opportunity, and he made that choice. And so that's why they're like, they've always had this feeling like, he's not dead. Like, he is not dead. I still, like, the sister was like, I talk to him all the time. I can feel him all the time. He's not dead. And there's, you know, if you've ever lost someone, you can kind of like get there sometimes where you're just like, no, I speak to them all the time, but they were there. They were like very adamant that this dude had not died. And so that was one, those 2 sessions were just mind blowing to me. Absolutely mind blowing. Very cool stuff. And they still, and then they gave me an update, and they were like, yeah, we actually hear from his friends all the time. Friends who mourned his loss, friends who went to his funeral, even though they didn't have a body, they still had a funeral and everything. We actually heard from them, and like at different times throughout the last year, saying, you know, I get messages and little signs and symbols and little like little rocks showing up from him all the time, like little things from him all the time. I don't think he's dead. So it's crazy, like crazy stuff. So when I had that session, I think I talked about it a little bit on a radio show, and people started calling me from all over the world and sending emails from all over the world talking about, I see portals, I see this, I saw a portal the other day, or I've experienced this. And it's just fascinating. These portals are opening up all over the world, because that was one of the questions. I said, if this happened to him, has this happened to other people? Are portals opening up in other areas? Oh yeah, they're opening up all over the world. It's happening more than you guys would ever think that people are going through, and they're actually helping. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Well, say when someone calls you for a session, what should they expect? How does that all go down?
So they should expect to wait a couple months. and no, I'm just being stupid. But so they have these sessions. They need to start composing their list of questions. That's what they do on day 1. They book the session. They compose their list of questions that they're seeking answers to. They come in, they wear comfy clothes. I ask them to wear comfy clothes, and come in, and we sit, and we sit on my couch, and we chat for a couple hours about their life, about what's brought them here, about what they hope, what they want out of life, like the life that they want to have and the life that they have had, and their struggles and stuff. And then we go over their list of questions, and then we add to them if we need to. And then we go down for the hypnosis, and it's all recorded, and every session is different. So I can never say what a session will look like, but we usually try to travel through a life, whether it's a past life or a life out of time. We travel through a life to get through a deepening gateway to get to the higher self. And then I ask their list of questions. Why does she always seem to date the same guy? That's been asked a million times. Why can I never stop dating losers? Because she's attracted to them, because she's not fixing herself. She's using them as a distraction. She needs to focus on herself and start healing herself. Oh God, if I had $1 for every time I heard that one, I'm like, yeah, if we could all just fix ourselves for a little while. So anyway, that's what they would expect.
A session in person, but you also do these over Skype or phone call?
So The quantum healing hypnosis, I only do person to person, in person. That's what I do. So they would have to come to Portland to have that. I've just started messing around with this other technique called Beyond Quantum Healing, and that's something that can be done online, but I haven't advertised for that. I mean, we're just getting the kinks out, and I wouldn't really want to see a new client that way. I think it's very important to have these sessions in person, but if someone has had several sessions before, they would probably be a candidate for doing the more of the remote hypnosis sessions. But like I said, I'm not even advertising for that. It's not on my website at all. The other things I do are, the one-on-one guidance. So I actually have a one of those after this, where people just call in and they ask me questions, or they tell me a little bit about themselves, and I help them kind of see the signs that the higher self is giving them, because that's one thing I'm good at, is like, especially after doing this job as well, it's like saying, okay, can you see the obvious ways your higher self is talking to you? And like, maybe you should actually pay attention to that. And what does that look like for you? So
That's great. I can really appreciate that. I don't know about you, Denise, but like, a lot of these guys offer it over Skype or online and stuff. But that is a degree of separation, a pretty major one, and I really appreciate that you want to do it in person. It's got to have a higher, more impactful interaction there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it is a much more concentrated effect when you're in the same room and you can feel the energy from the other person. I don't think the other one doesn't work. I just also know that, yes, it is more concentrated, and how wonderful to be able to just spend some time with someone. I also, though, QHHT, they won't let you do non-in-person ones. So that is a requirement from the people who run the show. They don't want you to do the remote sessions yet. And so I respect that, that it's their trademark stuff, and I respect that 100%. If they don't want me to do remote sessions, I'm not going to do them.
This is the Dolores Canon people you're referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you're using their technique and you're advertising that you're using their technique, that you got to do it in person. And like I said, I respect that, and that's what I do. But there's another technique that I'm messing with that I can probably do remotely. But like I said, I want, in order to be a candidate for that, I would really want that person to have had, many hypnosis sessions before, to be well practiced with hypnosis, so they know what to expect from on their own level. But we also have safeguards in place and everything like that. Those have to be in place. So yeah, but I prefer the one-on-one meetings, definitely.
Is that how yours was, Denise? Was it in person like that?
Yeah, it was. She stayed the whole weekend.
Oh, wow. You guys went out clubbing, huh?
No, we didn't. It was a very interesting weekend.
Oh my goodness. Now that's a long session.
Yeah. We only did the one session together, but yeah, she's just decided to stay the weekend. So.
Wow.
But anyway, so yeah, here's a good place to end, because I know we're getting at the top of the hour here, and we kept you for an hour and a half. So you have your daughter. Yeah. So we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been really fun and really interesting, and I'm glad you guys asked some crazy questions and stuff. I can't assume to know even half of what I would love to know. So it's always fun. Like, when people ask questions, it spurns growth within that individual. Yes. So thank you for having me on and helping me grow too.